Hi, welcome back to Introductory Algebra. Today we're doing section 4.6 in our book, Special Products. Alright, so special products are multiplications that happen kind of often, and so we have special patterns that they fall into. And so in this section we're going to look at those patterns and we're going to look at how to use them. Now, honestly, you can do any of the multiplication in this section the way we did in the last one, which is to just start multiplying everything together. I will have a few things to watch out for, to be careful with along the way, but really these are mostly important when we get to factoring. When we get to factoring, these special products will give us shortcuts for some of the problems that we want to try and do. So let's jump in, let's see these special products. So we have three of them. The first two are really almost exactly the same. The third one's a little bit different. So I'm going to do a total of 4 examples here for you. So here are our first two patterns. We have a binomial with addition in the middle squared and a binomial with subtraction in the middle squared. Now, importantly, if you're going to try to use these patterns, all the pluses and minus signs are put into the pattern for you. So any plus signs you see they're always plus signs. Any minus signs you see are always minus signs. We're not actually going to use b here as a negative b. We're just going to call it we're going to use the minus sign to tell us that we have a minus sign over here in the pattern. So anyway, for the sum squared, a plus b squared, we have a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And for the difference squared, we have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. First, I have a subtraction one, x minus 4 squared. Now importantly, don't you dare tell me this is x squared plus 16 or x squared minus 16. There is going to be a middle term here, and you have to have it. Okay, and we'll see, if you don't believe me, just remember that when you square something, you're multiplying it by itself. So this would be x minus 4 times x minus 4, and go back and multiply it out. And I think you'll see that, yeah, there's got to be a middle piece. All right, but since this one has a subtraction sign, I know that I'm just basically using this pattern here that I have down on the board. Right, because this one has a minus sign. So all I need to know is what a and b are. In this case, they're going to be x and 4. So anywhere there's an a in my pattern, I've put an x, and anywhere there's a b, I've put a 4, and then I just clean up the mess, and we're all done. Right, I put in the x for a, so we have x squared minus 2 times x times 4, 2 times 4 is 8, so I get a minus 8x, and 4 squared is 16, and that one's it. That's it, that really is it. The other one I have here, this one has a sum in the middle, plus sign. So I know I'm going to be using the first one. Now importantly on this one, a is a little bit bigger and more complicated. A is this 3x. And so where that's really going to come into play, and we have to be careful with, is when we square it, right? We have a squared here. We need to square the entire 3x. That includes the 3. It's real easy to forget to square the 3 and just call this 3x squared instead of what it ends up being, which is 9x squared. So just be careful with that. Anyway, so we go down the line, plug in the a's and the b's. This extra 2, that's just part of the way it works. 2 times 3 is 6, times 2 is 12. There we go, I can multiply. So we have 12x and 2 squared is 4. And so those are your binomial squares. They work really nice, and like I said, they really kind of come in handy in the next chapter when we start factoring, because at that point we're going to take things that look like the product we got here and bring them back to this factored form with a square on it. So, all right, let's look at one more pattern in this section, and we'll see it. This is actually my favorite one, but let me get it on the board. Okay, so for our last pattern that we're going to look at, this one is called the difference of squares. And the reason it's called that is because of actually how it's going to end up. Okay, what we're looking at here is a plus b times a minus b. So you have the same two things in your two sets of parentheses being multiplied, but one has a plus sign and one has a minus sign, right? A plus b, a minus b. And when you do that, turns out if you multiply those two things out, and I kind of encourage you to do that, but when you do, the middle terms drop out. They cancel out because one will be positive and one will be negative. And you're left with just a squared minus b squared. Okay? And that's it. This is my favorite one. And so it's called a difference of squares because after you multiply it out, what do you have? You have two things that are both squares with a minus sign in between. And this is definitely some of the nicest factoring you're going to see in when we get to the next chapter. So let's use it. I have two examples again. X plus 3 times x minus 3. So here my a is the x and my b is the 3. Okay, again, the plus and minus signs are all taken care of for us here. So we just plug in what's a and plug in what's b. So we know that it's a squared minus b squared. So I have x squared minus 3 squared. And that's just x squared minus 9. For the other one, for my other example, I have 2x minus 3y times 2x plus 3y. Now, this time I switched it up on us. I put the minus first and the plus second. It doesn't matter. It works the same either way. So here my a is the 2x and my b is the 3y. So I have 2x raised to the second power and 3y raised to the second power, which gives me 4x squared minus 9y squared. So there you go. These are some special products. They make our lives easier sometimes, especially if you get the hang of them. Just remember though, if you don't like trying to figure out how to fit all this in, if you're going to take one of my tests, feel free to just multiply them out. Just be careful and make sure you do it right. That's always key. So anyway, that's it for section 4.6. Thanks for coming.